Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Fish with these playoffs cause they reward mediocrity. NASCAR thinks I'm insane even though it's what we used to be. All year long fans raise a fuss, but nothing seems to change their minds. With next gen and no playoffs, we'd have close points battles all the time. Can you help make the whole season matter again? Oh yeah.
Yay.
What an intro. Hello, friends.
Yay.
Welcome on in to another edition of Happy Hour. That was the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Puke Combs. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace to Hulk Hogan. I mean, it was a very, very tough last week, but once again, Puke Combs does it again. We got an incredible lineup for you. First, let's introduce the weekly guys, Mr. Michael Massie, Mr. Dalton Hopkins. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be here. Good to be joined by our first Hall of Famer, I believe.
Oh.
So, it's a great Tuesday.
And that Hall of Famer is Vito Pugliese. Let's bring it in. Vito, welcome on in. No, but seriously, one of our contributors to frontstretch.com wrote a fantastic column. Vito, I think this is your second time on the program, the first with yours truly hosting. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you guys again.
Likewise, and one of the biggest guests that we have ever had, 40 wins, 882 races, over 12,000 laps led, and he is a NASCAR Hall of Famer, the man, the myth, Mr. Mark Martin himself. Mark, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, living the good life, and it's good to be on with you guys. We're gonna have some fun.
You're living retirement life. I think I already want to live retirement life, and I'm not even 30 yet. So you're living the dream.
I am. I can't believe how busy you can be when you're retired. I absolutely could not do a job and handle all the stuff I'm handling now. And I don't know. I've been doing a lot of cussing lately, so a lot of it's not going so well. But I'm really looking forward to going to California. Getting on the trip and the coach and getting out there and being away from the grind. Honestly, it'll be like a vacation to get back on the road and be around a lot of great race fans and all.
Well, Mark, that's why you're so popular. You're just cursing up a storm all the time. People love it when you curse. They love that stuff.
Yeah, they caught that finger that was flipping the bird. I see that all the time now on social media. So it's pretty cool.
For those that don't know, Mark is going to be going to Laguna Seca for the little reunion tour for the Monetary Motorsports reunion. You can see 7 generations of IROC cars. I was just there for the IndyCar race last week in Laguna Seca. Fantastic place, incredible. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that out. Once again, that's in the middle of March or the middle of August 13th through the 16th. But Mark, let's dive in to something that I think it kind of lit up social media last week. Obviously, SiriusXM, Larry Reynolds, Danielle Trotta, they were talking about the playoff system, and there was a little bit of a sly comment. People were thinking that it was directed towards you. Others were thinking it was directed towards Denny Hamlin. It settled down, and then our man Vito Pugliese wrote an incredible article for frontstretch.com, and it just lit up everywhere again. The perfect playoff format. And I think it's starting to get some traction. We saw Chase Elliott talk about it this past weekend at Indy. He wants to go back to all 36 races. Just what's the reaction been to all of this in the past 7 days?
I feel really good about it because now for the first time, I've seen a couple of active drivers hint that they wouldn't mind seeing that. You can't expect them to tell the truth because, that's how they make their living. but everyone that you get your information from is beholding to the TV money. Everyone. And listen, I don't just, everybody wants to, a lot of the fans want to fault NASCAR. Yeah, maybe, but I fault the owners too. They're addicted to the money. They want to see whatever the broadcast partners want. And obviously, I haven't told a lot of the details that I know, but it's certainly, the broadcast network. It's one of those that wants the playoffs. Okay. They don't understand racing. All they know is stick and ball sports. And they, it also makes it easy. It makes it easy for a broadcaster. It makes it easy for a journalist or anyone that covers the sport. They have a ready-made talking point every damn race because, we got the playoffs. When you're in the playoffs. You've got you've got something to talk about. Unfortunately, that's what they talk about. And typically the winner gets lost. And they only focus that he goes into the playoffs. But this week I saw a little bit different. With Bubba winning, the world seemed to say, that's a big deal. Dude, every race is a big deal. But it's not. It's cheapened now because all they talk about is, oh, you're in the playoffs now. Whereas I would like to see the focus. You are a bad mofo if you win a race, period. It's a big deal. And I would like to see, more focus on that. But, I have taken it on myself because I know I'm out with the fans. I don't live in the bubble. I'm not beholden to the television money or the NASCAR, or anyone. And the race fans are who I'm beholden. They kept me in the business forever, and they still, support me beyond belief. And I love the race fans. And I know for a fact that the majority of the race fans want 36 races. Now, that doesn't mean that it'll be more exciting than the playoffs, and the eliminations and all that. I'm not saying it would be more exciting. It might be, because 1992 is a good example of that. But it might be a runaway as well, just like Denny Hamlin said, the other day. It might be a runaway. Embrace that too, because somebody that runs away with it is a badass. But I'm speaking for the fans, and I know we're not going to get 36 races. I know it. But I'm going to stand up for the people that have stood behind me and love the sport and, and support me. So I'm their voice.
Beautiful. And I agree with you on like the Hail Melon move a couple years ago, Ross Chastain. I mean, that was an awesome thing, but it took away, everyone forgot that Christopher Bell won that race. And that's like maybe the biggest win Christopher Bell's career so far. He gets a grandfather clock, and nobody cared.
It's funny you say that because I was a big supporter of the Hail Melon. I mean, that deal was unbelievable. That was in this generation. That was the 1979 Daytona 500. That's a big deal. What also didn't want to see it ever happen again, So, but that was interesting. But like you say, that was totally overshadowed Christopher getting the win.
One of our comments, Moto Jansen on YouTube says, sorry, Mark, as a longtime fan, we've seen that race, and we won the playoffs with Daytona night race for the final race. Give us our money's worth. Mark, if you see those comments, like you see some comments like that, and then you see some comments like you get, just what are you thinking when you read comments like that?
Oh, I read, it's less than 1 out of 10. The people that want the playoffs it's playoffs or a version of playoffs, a modified version. You're talking about 20%. So it's an 80-20 issue. So I don't care what they say. I respect what they like. And I respect that, but it's an 80-20 issue. And I know this for a fact. And I also know NASCAR is not going to put it out there like Jeff Gluck did or like I have. You know, I knew my survey was correct. I knew it was. But to put it out for Jeff Gluck, now I know the people that follow him aren't old and, you know, whatever they want to call me and my followers. Like I got a lot of followers that are young, that are so young they never even saw me race. Come on now. You know, I see comments all the time. I'm 22 and I hate the playoffs, you know, or whatever. So, you know, I see it. They're in a minority. It's not 1 in 10. I'm gonna tell you, but you do see them. People say, I love the playoffs. And I'll be honest with you. At first, I liked those eliminations because I felt like it brought, you know, every 3 races in the last 10, it brought some drama, you know, but after a while, it winds up being manufactured drama. And there's a total difference, and the race fans can see it as well as I. Manufactured drama isn't the same as the real racing drama. And we get drama all the time now in NASCAR because we've manufactured it, but we don't appreciate it like we did back when 1992, for example, or, you know, 97, or, you know, there were a lot of points races that were very compelling. And the parity is so much closer now. And Chase Elliott's statement was perfect. Hey, we've got a in-season championship, and it's always right down. Last year it was 1 point. There's your sample. Why can't we do it all year? If we do it 26 races and it comes down to 1 point, you know, and the way you award points, you know, needs to be looked at. You know, I don't advocate for the Ladford system necessarily. I'm talking about 36 races, the whole season. Whoever does the greatest job, it's harder to win a championship when you got 36 races and you have flat tires and you break parts and you get in wrecks. You've got to, you know, it's tough. And drivers would care. Like there'd be some whoopings going on the first or second race of the season if somebody messed you up. Now it doesn't matter if you have a bad race. It really doesn't matter. Dude, some of these guys are missing races. They don't even race, you know. I mean, when you race 36 races and they all count, ain't nobody saying home sick. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a whole different deal. And I'm not saying it would be more exciting, or not even saying it would be as exciting. I'm just saying that the fans want it. Over 50% want 36 races, and then 30%, the next 30% want a 10-race chase. And I think, honest, and I've never said this, and I don't want to say it, but I'll say it for your show. I would settle for a 10-race chase, but I'd be disappointed. But I'm going to be crushed with what we wind up with, because I know what's coming. And, you know, the guys in the sport would like to see a sample size of maybe 3 races. That might make Denny Hamlin feel better about a championship, you know, about it not being a 1-race lucky deal or something, you know. But it ain't going to move the needle for the fans. How's that going to change how the fans feel about it? So you went to 3 races. You know, 10 is the least amount that I would do if I was going to, you know, if I was going to compromise.
Yeah, I think that's one thing.
Go ahead, Vito. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's one area where some of the newer fans, they don't know what they don't know. So they've known just the playoffs or like the chase since 2004. Like that's all they know. Like they don't know about 1992. For those that don't know, Alan Kulwicki, the eventual champion, like everyone talks about 1992. First thing they think of is it's Richard Petty's last race, Jeff Gordon's first race, the Apaches flying around Atlanta on the pace lap. The story behind that, though, is Alan Kulwicki made up 287 points in the last 6 races to win that championship. If there was an elimination format then, you probably wouldn't have been in it.
No.
So like you would have negated one of the greatest championship seasons of all time.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I talk a little bit, you know, about the whole distribution of the money, you know, and I'm not on the inside, so I don't understand the charter deal. I just always loved that that Daytona 500 paid $1 million. They don't, you know, it's the money is split up so differently now and so spread around that I don't even understand it. But I love dirt racing because it's 10,000 to win, or 15,000 or 25,000 to win. And, you know, that's the two things that you raced for in my era was the trophy and the check. And those things were what determined how important the race was. And now we've lost that because we don't know how much money they're getting, because they're not actually getting it's all obscure. So we don't exactly know, but you know, they're all addicted to that money. The owners are, NASCAR is. Now the racetracks need the TV money because they're getting, you know, half as many ticket sales. So I used to begrudge them initially for getting 25% of the TV money, you know, in the early 2000s. I didn't think they should get that, but now I do, because the ticket sales are down. But everybody is beholden to what the broadcast partners want. And so they all are scared, and I don't blame them. They're afraid to speak up. I can speak my mind, and I can speak for the fans.
So Mark, you say with like NBC that they only know like stick and ball sports. NBC's been doing NASCAR for like a decade. So is it just like they just don't care? They want to have that Game 7 moment. Like, how would they not know if they're just trying to like manufacture drama and not just the actual race itself?
Well, it's interesting you say that. You know, Jeff Benke with NBC. I've heard him in a meeting, and he says that when it comes to elimination round, he can see it in the viewers. Viewers are tuning in. Okay. All right. I get that. Probably. What he's not seeing is the people that aren't tuning in because they're sick of gimmicks. They don't like gimmicks. So what Jeff Burton, that works for NBC, tells me is that he doesn't think we can get back the fans, the diehard fans that we lost. You know, a diehard NASCAR fan watches the pre-race show, watches the race no matter what, no matter if it's runaway, boring, or exciting, or whatever, and he watches the post-race show. The viewers that Jeff Benke and NBC are chasing are the ones that aren't racing fans. They just want to see the sparks and the sparks fly, and they'll tune in for that. But they won't, you know, they're not going to watch the pre-race show. I just don't think that they can attract as many viewers, non-racing fan viewers, as they can lose by alienating, you know, the historical aspect and the tradition of the sport.
Good,
Mark, one thing I wanted to ask, there's been a number of media members and drivers come out the last few days saying that, or revealing that they're part of this committee. And on the teardown on Monday, Jordan Bianchi kind of intimated to Jeff Gluck that, you know, that NASCAR has asked that you don't use your position on this committee to help, you know, influence your preferred position one way or the other. Is that something, has NASCAR approached you recently saying, hey, can you rein it in a little bit? Or are you able to keep, basically you're amplifying what fans are asking for in your polls and Jeff's polls? So I just didn't know if, you know, have they approached you to not advertise that as much?
Well, I was told in the beginning that you didn't talk about it. You didn't share with anyone that you were on this committee. So, you know, I've tried to be honorable in that respect. I've actually been surprised that Denny Hamlin and Jordan and Jeff Gluck have actually, exposed it, that they are part of the committee. I haven't ever said that I was, but you can read between the lines. But no, I have not heard. In fact, honestly, and this is going to give it away, after the first meeting, and I made such a fool of myself by, saying what I said, I reached out to NASCAR and I said, I kind of feel like a fool for, and I was told that, no, that's why we wanted you on this committee. And I'm like, so all they're getting from me would be a scolding. They're getting a scolding. I've shamed them. It's like, shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. There's not a single soul on that committee that has advocated for full season points.
Wow.
In the committee or on the, there hasn't been one. That I will say that maybe quietly, there was one driver that said one sentence. And, and that was the only support that there has been for it. So everyone involved in the sport knows what the TV partners want. And they also, I'm not saying that they're wrong. They want to see the most exciting format. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying the fans don't want that. They don't want this. I mean, they want traditional. And if you structure the points correctly, you can have a great championship battle right down to the last race. And if, just like Chase Elliott said, and if someone runs away with it, and give them their credit. I watched the Super Bowl. I watch one football game a year. I don't know what a Game 7 moment is, by the way. I have no idea. I don't know anything about playoffs. I do know one thing. There isn't 36 teams on the field in the championship game. In any of those games, there's 2. Racing is different. But I watch the Super Bowl. I watch it every year. And it was boring last year, but I still watched it. And I'm going to watch it next year because it won't be probably boring. But, that's how sports are, and that's how racing is. You're going to have your Martin Truex, or you're going to have your Jeff Burton that leads all 300 laps at New Hampshire, or Dover when we led something like 370 laps or whatever it was, or Martin Truex, at Charlotte. You'll have those. Then you'll have a 3-wide photo finish too. Just embrace those. Embrace when somebody puts a whooping on them, give them credit where credit's due. Yeah, it wasn't a great race, but I'm going to watch next week because it's going to be a good race next week. And the same thing goes with any other sport. So that's my stance.
I do got to say, Mark, there are a couple Eagle fans in our chat that did not find the Super Bowl boring. So I do got to mention that. But I did want to read one comment. It was from James Krause. It said, Mark, respectfully, what is the point of this playoff committee if one TV network can outvote the large majority on it?
That's the appalling part of it. And I have seriously considered resigning. I considered it after the first meeting because I was embarrassed, because I didn't sugarcoat it. I told them about I told them how it was. And after it was over, I was embarrassed. I thought I'd embarrassed myself. So I thought about it. And then after the second meeting, I thought even more about it. It's like, I'm going to resign because there's no use in me being on this because no one's interested in doing what the fans want to do. And then as Jeff Gluck exposed, I didn't first. Jeff, he exposed that or Denny Hamlin, maybe it was Denny Hamlin, or both maybe exposed that actually we got a letter saying that NBC had re-up for, I don't know, a long time, and we can't have another scheduled meeting on these points deal until they have a say, because they should have a big say in it. And we can't have a meeting with them for, I don't know how long. It was a long time. So Denny Hamlin's now saying it's too late. You know, like I say, he advocates for a 3-race thing. He thinks that if you know, the championship's decided over 3 races, well, maybe that is the best you can do, but that's not good enough for me, and I'm going to protest like hell. That's bull. That does not move the needle. But anyway, that being said, they're both mad now because it's too late by the time they have that talk, and then we have these talks, and you got 2026 season and schedule already out, and so they think everybody, I know it blew Jeff Gluck's mind, because I talked with Jeff about it, and it totally blew his. He knows where I stand, of course, and Jeff and I are really cool. I love Jeff a lot, but I love all the media. I just know that I love Larry McReynolds, even though the stuff went down when that sounded so bad on Sirius satellite radio. I know Larry McReynolds. He was my crew chief in 1982. I drove his car that he crew chiefed in early 1982. I know Larry McReynolds. There's not a mean cell in his body. So, I knew that he either wasn't talking about me or didn't mean it the way it sounded, So, it's just, it's been one heck of a mess. And I just feel bad because I know that the race fans are in for a disappointment.
I just thought it was funny that he doesn't have any championships either. And he's making that comment. Where are your championships at, Larry? But yeah, I did notice you joined him and Jeff Burton on that altcast on True TV Sunday. So it seemed like everything was all good with you guys.
My son Matt is the same thing. We were talking about it when X was just blowing up, and even Matt, he said it sounded bad, but Larry McReynolds, that's he don't mean that. It didn't mean that the way people think it sounded. So anyway, Larry Mack is all for the playoffs, obviously, and so is Danielle, and so is so many other media members. And I get that. But I also know what the fans, I know it's a 80-20 issue. Now, whether it's a 10-race chase or it's 36 races, that's 80% of our fan base wants one of those two things.
I feel like that nowadays they kind of have to be. They kind of have to be for this playoff system, because, think about it. We've had it for the last 20 years, whether it be the chase or the playoffs itself. We had this postseason format for the last 20 years. And when you think about it, NASCAR is 77 years old, and that's nearly a third of NASCAR's history. We've had this postseason format, regardless of however the format actually works. So I feel like we've made our bed, and we kind of have to sleep in it at this point. So if the 10-season format is truly the way, or the 10-race format is truly the way to go. Sorry, slip of the tongue.
Brother, if we got a 10-season format,
oh my God. Yeah, 10 season side champion.
You would really earn it then.
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings.
But I think Denny would definitely have a championship by that point. But if we truly had a 10-race, if we went back to 10-race format, I know you said earlier you'd be disappointed, but do you stay in the committee and keep fighting for a full season, or are you satisfied at that point?
Oh no! If believe me, I would settle for the 10-race chase, and I would go to the race fans, and I would try to sell it to the race fans. to the fans. It's like, hey, take this. This is good. Take this. There has to be compromises, and you've got great points, about that. And so, I would. I'm not going to advocate to the committee for that, but I would certainly, if they decided on that, I would definitely come back to the race fans and try to, sell it to them as, hey, this is the best we can do. Don't, be encouraging, be positive. We love this sport, and our champion is going to be, legitimate. Come on now. I would definitely work to try to sway, the fans that were not happy with that. But I don't think we'll get that. I don't even think, neither does Dale Jr. Dale Jr. advocates more for maybe a 5 rate. He wants a bigger sample size. But see, Dale knows you can't get there. He knows. And God, you look at Kevin Harvick. Not only does he make a living, in the media, but he's got a kid coming along that races. He's got to be in good standings, And Kevin, Kevin is brash. He's not going to be controlled by anybody, not TV or anybody else. But still, he has their best interest in his heart more than he does any, someone else, because he has to operate in that era, in that scene. Just for example, Denny Hamlin owns he's owner of a race team. Not only is he race, but he's owner of a race team. All these guys have to watch what they're doing. I know that and that's what I'm going to share a lot in my book. When I raced, I couldn't tell how I felt about whether it was my relationship with Jack Roush or my relationship with Ford or relationships, with Bill France Jr., for example. I just couldn't talk about it because, I had to do the best thing for my career. And so, I get that these guys can't come out and say and talk like I talk.
Mark, Alex Gimps on our YouTube says, does Mark see a future where younger fans who only remember a playoff format no longer have any desire for a full season format, or will the gimmick never be entirely endorsed by the fans?
Well, there's going to be a segment of fans that will never endorse it. And there's a part of that segment of fans that don't endorse it that will still watch it. Even and complain about it all the way along. So yeah, I get that. I think everyone agrees that there need to be some adjustment. I don't think very many, even in the industry, think that one race deciding the champion is the best for the sport. There's just too many variables. And you got all those other guys out there on the racetrack that are racing you. It's not like putting 2 cars out there and whoever wins the championship. So yeah, I get that. People are going to complain and listen, X is the social media and Facebook too. I mean, it's horrendous out there. How negative and how mean people are. But at the same time, I've got to say that it warms my heart to be able to share so much with the fans. I've got nearly 400,000 followers on X and they're so good. I mean, some of them say crappy things, but they're so heartwarming and so many people that know about my career. And there's young people that I think, could he have ever seen me race? How does he know, how does he know that about me or whatever? It's kind of crazy. So yeah, the answer is nobody's going to be happy. Oh, not everyone's going to be happy no matter what they do.
Mark, I just wanted to. This is probably the last question regarding the playoff format, and then we can move on after this. But and a credit to Vito here, because I believe he brought this up before we started the podcast tonight. But if you were in this current format, and you are so well known of being a gentleman on the racetrack and racing everyone with respect and not being too overly aggressive, if you were in this format, would you have maybe turned up the dial on the aggressiveness and maybe ruffled a few more feathers than you're used to? And again, credit to Vito here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't survive in, the way I was in this era. And I think it's challenging. Look, Denny has done it, and Kevin Harvick did it, and did it well. But they didn't go back as deep as I went, one thing about my career, I think there was over 30 years between my first and last pole or something. It was like crazy. I was in it for a long, long time and still competitive and winning races, deep into my career, 50 years old. And, I won, 4 poles, I think it was, at 54 years old, 53 years old. So it was, it was a great time. But things started to change right after I got out. And you saw that with Logano and me at Pocono, him moving me, the guy that brought him into NASCAR, and did everything I could do to get his career started. And that's an example of how cutthroat it was going to get. And so it would have been hard for me to adapt, because I just have trouble sleeping at night. And I would just, I have trouble sleeping at night. And you have to be so selfish. I actually, when I was running like Daytona or Talladega and leading the race, just switching from the bottom to the top lane, whichever one had runs, made me uncomfortable. I did it, but it made me uncomfortable, because I felt like I was being an ass, But the guys back then, the guys that drove like asses, did the best. I mean, Mike Wallace was one of the best restrictor plate drivers. For example, Michael Waltrip was one of the best. They could get out there and do it, and and it didn't bother them. They could drive and be rude. Well, hell, everybody has to do that everywhere now.
Yeah, coincidentally, Joey Logano, the one guy in the movie, was also probably part of that minority that never wants the playoffs to go away. But
yeah,
but listen, the fans that discredit that, and I get the gripe about the 24 championship. I get the gripe, but dude, you can't discredit it. They won it based on the rules. They raced the rules. After they won Vegas, it didn't look like, maybe they were, but it didn't look like they even tried the next few races. It was just like, wow. But all they had to do, at one point, was just make that Final Four, and then they could put all their eggs into that last race. And they went and they did it. And they won the championship under the current rules. So I don't like it when, fans, discredit, that because he had a 17th place finishing average or whatever it was,
Last but not least, on this topic, there's been a lot of things that you have been, as the cool kids like to say, dropping bars. Alex Gintz wanted to know, did you learn to drop bars like that from Gucci Mane? So I know you're a big fan, and so I had to throw that one in there. But let's dive on into our second topic of this evening, and that was news that came out this afternoon. On Saturday, Eric Almirola, Austin Hill, they got into a little disagreement, and Austin Hill, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, lost his mind, and he Well, I'll say it. He intentionally wrecked Eric Amarola going 180 miles an hour, and it was announced today that he has been suspended for one race. Was this a good move? Was this a bad move? Mark, have you ever been in a situation like this where you just got flat out right rear hooked into the wall? And then your thoughts on the decision from NASCAR?
I think that there's a lot of layers to this. It's a difference between turning a guy in the left rear and turning a guy in the right rear, especially at Indianapolis, where that happened. I know these cars are extremely safe. I know it's been nearly 25 years since we lost a driver, but I'm telling you, that could have happened. And it would have affected so many people's lives if we would have lost Eric. And I don't mean to be dramatic. I'm just telling you, if I'd have been in the 21 car and done that and Eric lost his life, it would have been a horrible life for me the rest of my life, knowing what happened. So that's how serious this is. Now let's talk about Austin a little bit. He's a really good driver, but great drivers can, and all great drivers, all good drivers have fire and passion. But the great ones know how to manage their emotion. And I believe that was an emotion, like you said, he lost his mind. My view of it is, I don't disagree with you, but I just say that was an emotional move that he made, where with the cars now today, he couldn't get in behind him and run into the back of him because he probably wouldn't ever get back to him. And so he just snapped like this. Well, hit him back, and, he didn't think about all the consequences. This is just my guess. I don't like wrecking somebody, but I have lost my emotion too. I have wrecked people on purpose too, and I'm extremely ashamed of it. I hadn't done it a lot, but I did it. And I'm not proud of it. But I didn't right rear somebody, at the end of the short chute going into 4. That's a scary deal, really scary deal. And as far as NASCAR, I wish they didn't have to police this. I like to handle stuff man to man, one-on-one. Well, I don't know anybody's going to get away with doing that with Austin. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know how that'll work out, but I always liked handling it myself, man to man, and working the deal out. I hate for NASCAR to have to do anything. They had to in this situation. But I feel for NASCAR for having to make that call.
Yeah. Hey, we learned last year that Eric Almirola can throw a punch if he needs to, apparently. But no, I do think like the Stewart Friesen crash yesterday, which we're thinking of you, Stewart. Thoughts and prayers, going out to Stewart Friesen.
Scary stuff.
Hope he's back and okay. But it's a reminder that these cars are dangerous.
It's been so long since we've really had anyone seriously injured, but it still can happen. And you got to think about that, especially when you do something intentional. An accident's an accident, and an accident's easier to live with than something when you did it on purpose.
It kind of, I remember a tweet from Dale Earnhardt Jr. when there was, I think it was after the Martinsville spring race with Sammy Smith. And I want to say there was Taylor Gray, they got into it, and they had a meeting the very next week. And Dale Jr. tweeted, he was like, to hear Austin Hill speak up at the driver meeting to suggest he could be the one to mentor the kids was the best laugh that I had all week. I mean, it kind of says something when you have a guy like Dale Jr., like knowing what kind of person like Austin Hill is, and he may be a nice guy like off the racetrack, but like there's just sometimes you just lose your absolute mind, and it feels like it's becoming more and more frequent. And honestly, sometimes you just need to take a step down, and for him, it's a week off, and maybe he can just come to grips with it and be like, I got to change.
Yeah, well, for him to become a great driver, he's going to have to get his arms around that, because it's not the first time. So you're seeing a pattern, and for him to become a great, he's going to have to get his arms around it.
Wyatt Watson on our YouTube channel says, what was the biggest man-to-man confrontation that you have had in your career, Mark?
Well, I like to answer that. I've had a number of man-to-mans with different ones, but I almost got my ass whipped by Dale Shaw at IRP in 1987, and I had it coming. I did something stupid. I didn't wreck anybody on purpose, but I did something stupid that caused a wreck. I thought I was going to get it. He was mad. I'll tell you another time I did something that was questionably not perfect because I was racing for points again. We were at Indianapolis, and it was one of those hot days, nearly 100 degrees, and all the drivers are on fire, and I was on 7 cylinders. And I restarted the race, I think, in the fast lane, knowing I was on 7 cylinders. And Ward was behind me, Ward Burton. Whatever went down, it wasn't great. And I was on fire after the race. And I went up into the lounge, and Ward come in, and I was a little concerned I might have to defend myself with Ward as well. So, and Ward and I were great friends, but you have those times. I'd much rather see that kind of thing. See the emotion on pit road or in the garage area. I still can't stand these guys tearing up cars for no reason. It's one thing to wreck racing, wreck tearing up, trying or not, whatever, getting caught. That's one thing, but tear them up after the race or on purpose, that a butt whooping, you ought to have a butt whooping if you do that.
If Austin Hill was right in front of you, what would you say to him right now?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. If there was a glass window in between you and he could not physically harm you,
I think I would probably just tell him what I've said on this show. You are a good driver, but if you want to become a great, you're going to have to get your arms around that.
Vito, I think Mark said it best, but anything you wanna add there?
So I got to ask you something. You said sometimes you haven't done things the best, or maybe you crossed the line. Bristol 2000, I was there. I think Steve Park may have been holding you up. Did you by any chance assist him into the corner to show your displeasure?
I don't remember. Did he wreck?
He spun. It was a harmless spin, but I remember looking at it like, oh, I think it might have been intentional.
Yeah, it may have been. I might have been mad at him. I actually don't recall that, but it's sure as hell, not saying it didn't happen. I think, that one doesn't really, I don't really remember. I really did something really, really, really bad at Atlanta. Got really pissed off at Regan Smith. He pushed and wallered me on a restart going into turn 1, and I was really pissed. And I turned him in the middle of the backstretch, and he hit the inside wall. And I was ashamed of that. But dadgummit, he should have respected me more than he did. But, that's one I'm embarrassed of. I'm ashamed of.
Last but not least, once again, Austin Dillon is going to be filling in for Austin Hill in the 21. A little ironic because Austin Dillon right rear Denny Hamlin in Richmond. So I mean, it's kind of like a little snowball effect there. But it'll be interesting to see if Austin Hill does change. But once again, Austin Hill suspended for one race after intentionally wrecking Eric Emerald on Saturday. Last but not least, switching over gears. Before we do, though, I just wanted to take a moment and let you know that Mark Martin's not going to be the only legend we have this week. Rick Benjamin, former Racing TV play-by-play guy, now analyst, and he's going to be back putting drivers in the hot seat. His former show Raceline makes his return to streaming this Thursday night on the Front Stretch YouTube channel. Check out Rick's interview, catching up with Randy LaJoie, one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers, and now he is within the sport with the Joey of seating. That's Raceline 2.0, back and better than ever. He's got future guests Ricky Craven, Ken Schrader, and many more as Rick and Raceline race their way back onto the airwaves once again. Raceline premiering this Thursday night, 9 p.m., only on the Front Stretch YouTube channel. Last but not least, Mark, it was a very, very special day for a couple people on Saturday. Junior Motorsports, they won their 100th race for the organization, but it was a little bit special for you as well because you were the number one. You won their first race. Just what was that like seeing it? And then how has that company evolved? I mean, you've seen stars and stars come through there, and then you have a potential superstar in Connor Zilic now at the helm. Just what were your emotions like on Saturday?
I just loved seeing it because, I remember Junior, being, I think he was 6, 7 years old, the first time I met him. And he's such an asset to the sport. And Kelly is so wonderful. And those two just make me so proud. I mean, I feel like an uncle or something, I mean, I'm really proud of those two, the people they are, the contribution they make to our sport. Dale Jr. is the most important individual in all of NASCAR and racing. He brings so much history and tradition, and he just brings so much to our sport. And Kelly's been so wonderful, and they've always treated me with enormous respect. So I was really, really happy, and it was pretty cool. They reached out from Junior Motorsports to get a video from me because they were preparing for that. So I did a little video because obviously we got them their first one, which was pretty damn cool. But yeah, I was happy to see it. I am really proud of those guys. And, they have such a lineup of drivers now. I love seeing all of them and all their success, and Connor, doing what he's doing, and Justin Allgaier being the elder statesman. I remember him when he was a kid too. So it's cool to see what they have, the dynamic they have there now. And so I was really happy. But before we move on I want to give another shout out. I'm always a Underdog fan because I remember when I was an underdog. And I want to give a shout out to not only, Bubba Wallace and 2311 and everyone on a gigantic win, but that was absolutely phenomenal what Catherine Legg and BJ McLeod did. And they're not getting enough. And I was a Catherine supporter, and before Phoenix, way before Phoenix, when she was trying to do, when she was doing Indy and stuff. So for years, nearly 10 years, 8 years ago. So I was real disappointed with Phoenix because I knew the potential she had, and I knew her attitude, and I didn't think that, she would ruffle any feathers or cause any trouble. And I hated that happened because that got her off on the wrong foot with a lot of the fans. She is incredible. What she did, what she's done in the last 2 or 3 races is amazing. And I'm so proud of BJ. And I really would love to see that continue, and for them to maybe even get more support and get better equipment, because I know BJ McLeod won every darn race at New Smyrna, back when Matt was just getting started racing when he was a little boy. And BJ, has chased his dream, and he may or may not be able to ever win a NASCAR race, but to be able to make it in NASCAR racing is something cool to see.
Absolutely.
Mark, just wanted to touch back on you got the first win for JRM, first win for Roush Racing in both Cup and Xfinity. And I think you got the first win for Turner Motorsports too in 2011. Is there any team that you didn't drive for that you would have liked to have the opportunity to race for in your career?
Well, I really don't think so. I really regret, I got to drive for Gibbs at Vegas as well. I don't know, Vegas in the Busch Series was great for me. I think we won 5 times, 32 car and 5 car and 60 car and I don't know what else. So it was really great. I think, but dang, Stenhouse outrun me. I was leading the race and I was driving the 18 of Gibbs car. I should have won that race, but hey, man, Stenhouse just drove up on me and run around the outside and beat me. So I hate that. I wish I would have won that race.
Yeah.
Massie, it looked like Massie, you were about to say something, buddy.
Oh no, I was gonna. I don't know if I should say it or not because it might be a sore subject, but you did get the first win for Gin Racing, but they didn't count it. Yeah.
Massie, why'd you have to go there? I'm trying to be nice, and look what you did.
They're having a good time.
Some people like to say I won the Daytona 500, just not the Daytona 505.
Yeah.
So,
does that one stick with you? Like when you're going to bed, you're like, I was so close right there.
It doesn't as bad as the 2009 Indy Brickyard. Wow. Because if I would have run, Jimmy up in turn 1 and not lost it myself while doing it, then I'd have won the race. I had the race won, had him beat, and I was way faster than him, but you know how hard it is to pass. I got runs on him, but I couldn't get him. I would have liked to won that race, and I feel like, I could have lived with myself. What I couldn't have lived with myself is if I would have wrecked us both. I couldn't, and that's because we were both so on edge that, it could have happened if I would have tried to move up the racetrack just a little bit. So as far as Daytona goes, I saw Kevin coming. I was going into turn 3 and I saw Kevin coming, but I had Kyle Busch, who I was most fearful of, had the fastest car, the most aggressive driver, and I was going to have him pinned behind me. I can't lose the race. I can't lose if I keep him behind me. So I think about going up there and getting in Kevin's lane. But if I do that, I give the fastest car on the racetrack the inside lane, and I lose the race. And I never forgive myself as long as I live. And so I can't go high. I can't do that. And what happens? Kyle Busch spun out. How does that happen? So all these things I can't control. I still made the right decision until he went around. And then I'm out there on my, all by myself. And so, I did the right thing there. And it's just unfortunate. I could have done something different at Indy.
Mark, there was a lot of talk on social. I know you're active on social, and there was a lot of talk. I'm sure you've seen it. Jeff Gluck retweeted a lot of it, which was about a conversation of the lack of fans in the stands at Indianapolis. And it's funny to bring up the Brickyard, and you consider that's one of the biggest races that you regret. Why, from a driver's perspective, despite the fact that we seem to have a lack of fans at Indianapolis, and the fact that the racing on-track product does not seem to be all that interesting and really all that attractive, why is the Brickyard 400 still a crown jewel race?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it is a crown jewel race because the competitors feel it is. You know, I think the competitors make it a crown jewel. You know, it's a very difficult race to win. In some ways, it's more difficult to win than Daytona. You know, you can't wobble yourself into that one. You know, you got to handle. You got to be able to drive the car. You know, you can't have a slick race car and block everything. It's a challenging race to win. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for the lack of fans. You know, there's the one thing that, you know, a lot of the race fans, the traditional race fans, have been alienated by so many changes. You know, a lot of them don't like all that, you know, all the changes and that's been made. But it's also a lot easier to watch from home. I mean, I would much rather, and you can see so much more. I think the reason the Indy 500 is still a big deal is because it is such a big deal, such a spectacle. Like, it's incredible to see the cars just go by in front of you so fast. You know, the stock cars, you get that too, but you don't get it like an Indy car. And I think that just being able to see and touch and feel and smell doesn't mean as much for the Brickyard as it does for the Indy 500. But that's another reason why the key is TV audience. And that's why, you know, everyone is so beholden to the TV. I'm going to say one more thing about NASCAR, you know, because I'm real critical. I don't have any problem criticizing them. Kudos to NASCAR, because they sold the TV package for what, in my opinion, is way too much money. I mean, dude. And so now they have to deliver. They got to figure out how to deliver on this, because you can't ever take less money. You know, so when this deal expires, the next one needs to be for even more. But they sold this TV package for an enormous amount of money. And now they got to figure out how to, you know, to make it work. So kudos to them. You know, what are you supposed to do? Say, we're going to do it for half as much money, but, you know, you're not going to be able to have any say, you know, what the decisions we make. So, you know, the race teams need the money, but if they didn't always have as much money as they have now, they say they're starving to death now. They were starving to death then. The race fans won't see any difference if they have to race on less money. The product on the racetrack is the same. So I wish that we would have taken it a little bit slower and stopped, you know, and the first TV package in 2001, 2002, that was the first big money they got. And I didn't see any difference in my pocket, but I did see a difference in the decisions that started to be made for television rather than the old decisions before were about the racers. We had practice whenever Bill French said we was going to have practice. And when we got the new TV deal, if it was raining when we were supposed to have practice, we didn't have it. And then when it wasn't raining anymore, we didn't have it because it was scheduled to be on TV, and now we just don't have it. And so I started raising a red flag back in 2002 or so. Like, I don't know about this, guys. It's not headed in the right direction.
A couple more things here, Mark, before we wrap it up. I know the three of us, Vito, I don't know about you, but for Dalton and myself, we went to the Indy 500 for the first time this year. And it's something like we've never experienced. Sure, Daytona 500 is close, but I mean, just it is incredible to witness. I know Dalton lives in Daytona, so he's a little biased there. Yeah, I know.
Best race in the
Two-part.
world.
Okay, Dalton, knock it off. Two-part here. Number one, our man Wyatt Watson is asking, did you ever consider running the Indy 500? And then two, have you ever been to the Indy 500? The actual, I know you've been to the track, but have you actually been to the event in retirement?
Yeah.
It's
So
tough, Wyatt.
yeah. So I went in 2017, the 100th
Okay.
running,
Ooh.
and that was on my bucket list. So I did do that. I never even considered running Indy. Valvoline had, a car and wanted me to practice, test it. You can take it out, at Michigan or wherever. It's like, dude, Robbie Gordon was the driver. The only reason I'd want to get in that Indy car is to go faster than the driver. And I knew I would kill myself if I tried to go faster than Robbie Gordon. He was a good dude who was on fire. So there's no way I was going to get in that car. And honestly, I had such a hard time getting to where I could drive a NASCAR car and win a race. That by the time that's finally when I got in that situation, finally when the door was open to drive an Indy car. And I just felt like I'd be a fool, because if I hurt myself, I would have thrown my whole life leading up to that time away. It was so hard to get to where I could win that first race with Jack Roush in 1989. And I just didn't feel like I was going to jeopardize that.
I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot because it's not just like 2 practice sessions. It's the entire month, and we saw it with Larson this month. Like it looked like he was mentally and physically drained after that final wreck that he wrecked on Sunday at the Indy 500. And I mean, some people are saying he's never really recovered. He hasn't won since Kansas, which was before the Indy 500. I mean, it takes a special talent to run that race.
Yeah, I raced with Tony Stewart in the 600, and we got right down to the end, when he did his double, and we got right down to the end, and I saw his car loose and him wiggling, and I could tell he just was too tired to fight it. And I think I passed him right there at the end, but I could tell that he wasn't able to wrestle the car like he normally does. It's a pretty brutal thing. Shout out to, of course, Tony, who's one of the greatest wheelmen ever, but shout out to Kurt Busch too. Mm-hmm. Dude, he went up there and ran top 10 every practice session all day long and everything. Now they say that the cars are easier to drive during that era, but that still ain't easy. I don't care. That's incredible. But Kurt Busch is, he is a wheelman.
Yeah. And I just want to throw out real quick to go off what Mark was saying about the money, the TV money, that this year's Brickyard 400 probably had the smallest payout ever to a winner. So I just end you with that thought with Brian. You could wrap it up now if you want.
That is true. I mean, an open car did win for the first time since like 2023. So I mean, congrats.
First time on a non-drafting oval.
Yeah,
so.
That is true.
Yeah,
it was cool to see Bubba just celebrate. It's been a long 100 races, and he's changed. I mean, he became a dad and everything. It was really, really cool to see. But we're gonna wrap this up, Mark. It's been a pleasure. Vito was telling me before we started, you're in the process of writing another book. Can you tell us about that, and then what else you're gonna be gearing up for later?
So we have completed all the chapters, but it's not ready. They're still forwards to write and a little bit more writing, and then we've got to go over it and do our own edits. Matt and I do our own last minute edits to it before it goes to the publisher. Our goal is to have it out next summer. There's a lot. There's deep details in my relationship with Jack Roush. There's stories. There's 2 stories in there that I'd never told Arlene or Matt because I was so embarrassed. the stupid stuff I did, when I was younger. There's a lot of stuff that people just don't know about in this book, and it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, I'm afraid it's going to be 500 to 600 pages. There's a lot, because people don't realize, a lot of people only know me because of my NASCAR career, but I had an entire lifelong type career getting to Jack Roush. And then I've got a whole book after Jack Roush, after getting to Jack Roush. And that early part was important, because that's a foundation that I built my career on top of with Jack Roush in the 6 car. And there's so much about that. And you should learn things. You should get to know me in there, and then you'll understand some of the decisions I made, like why I stayed with Jack Roush 19 years, or, you learn why I turned down the 28 car in December 1981, which was idiotic, but I have my reasons. Learn why I turned it down again after Davey's accident, again after Ernie's accident. The 28 car was 3 times, and it would have been incredible to drive, but I just I had contracts, with the last 2 times, and the other time I thought I had them beat. But anyway, there's a lot of great detail in this book, and I really look forward to sharing it with the fans. Going to do a huge book tour, going to a lot of racetracks. I want to go to Wisconsin, Indiana. I'll go to some NASCAR stuff, but getting back to my roots, that's who I am. The person I was before I became a NASCAR, successful NASCAR driver. That's who I really am. And that's who that's who I'm loyal to.
If it's anything like Ray Evernham's book, in which it made me cry, smile, and mad, like all at the same time, I think it's going to be a good book. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. For Around the Room, Vito, what are you going to be cooking up on frontstretch.com? And then tag your socials, my friend.
I think I did enough last week for a while.
You may have. Yeah, I think you have.
No, I'll pop up on Two-Headed Monster, and you'll see me throughout this summer, I'm sure. One thing I do want to say, Mark, with regards to the book, anyone out there, if you have any appreciation for 1990s, 2000s NASCAR, follow Mark Martin Archive and Matthew Martin on Twitter. Some of the videos he's posted the last couple of days, stuff I've never seen before. It's incredible. You'll love it.
Dalton, are you going to be writing Thinking Out Loud this weekend?
I sure am. Yes, once again, writing Thinking Out Loud for this weekend's Iowa race. Really excited.
Mr. Michael Massie, are you going to be at a racetrack anytime soon, or what are you going to be riding?
I'll be at Richmond in a few weeks, but that'll be the next one. But I wrote this past Friday about the Carson Quaffle to Penske rumors that keep popping up. So give that a read. It's just a rumor that keeps coming up, not confirming it, not denying it, but explore what that would look like if he were to be going to that team.
Fantastic. I got nothing planned. I was in Laguna Seca last week for IndyCar. We'll be in Portland for IndyCar before going back to the NASCAR side of things. But Wyatt Watson and Steven Stump, they got all the latest for you for Front Stretch in Iowa. Coming up next, though, in the Front Stretch Podcast Network, bringing the heat with Trey Lau. Got special guest Lee Diffie from NBC Sports. He's going to be starting the NBC portion of the NASCAR schedule. So he's going to be talking with Trey. So find that out coming up on Thursday. Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure. You have brought, you made me smile. You made me sad a little bit, in a good way.
Nostalgic.
Exactly. But thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome anytime. And it was an absolute joy to talk with you, my friend.
That's been fun, guys. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hold you to it, my friend. I'm going to hold you to it. For Vito Pugliese, Dalton Hopkins, Mark Martin, Michael Massie, I'm Bryan Nolen. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our producer as well, Mr. Trenton Worsham. This was another edition of the Front Stretches Happy Hour program.